Hello there, it's Tania Gabrielle, Wealth Astro-Numerologist. Welcome to Star Codes. This is the weekly forecast where I look at one of the important events coming up in the stars and numbers. And this week we're going to do the Taurus lunar eclipse. That's a full moon eclipse. It's the first of two eclipses happening on November 19th. And that's at 8:57 a.m. in London. And that'll be 3:57 p.m. Eastern Time, New York, and 12:57 a.m. Pacific Time, LA. And that means it happens November 18th in Hawaii. So this eclipse is very exciting. First of all, it forms a T-square to Jupiter. What is not to like about that? I mean, the only thing better would be a conjunction with Jupiter or a trine to Jupiter. But anything that touches Jupiter brings us more joy, and it enhances what we focus on. So if we are being proactive and positive, this is a wonderful time because Taurus is an earth sign. So Jupiter is enhancing something and Taurus is making it real. It's grounding the energy. So November 19th is made up of 1 and 9, beginnings and endings. So it governs the whole intimate experience of life itself, the cycles of life. And then Taurus and Scorpio are fixed signs. So they basically help us to cement things, to make things so that they last. And the thing is, fixed signs can be stubborn. So if there's anything in your life that needs to be loosened up a little bit, you'll be loosening up during this eclipse. Because eclipses are powerful, right? They're like a full moon on steroids, basically. So it doesn't mean that you'll be super emotional. No, it means that you have superhuman powers to create the life that you want. So see it as an opportunity to dive into what you value and shining the light on truth. Those are the two real keywords for Scorpio, where the sun is and where the moon is in Taurus. So basically, since Taurus is ruled by Venus, it governs your values, love, beauty, pleasure, self-expression, artistic expression, art, and it also governs your self-esteem. It governs the flow of finances, abundance, using your talents, your voice, the throat, your security, personal resources, and intimate relationships. Now, when we look at the importance of perseverance for fixed signs, and that we are adding sensual pleasure to that, and also the Jupiter T-square, because the sun and moon are creating a square to Jupiter, which means whatever we are focusing on will be enhanced. So what you really are choosing to value in your life at this time, or choosing to lavish your perseverance on at this time, we want it to feel pleasurable. We want there to be a sense of play as well. And certainly a deep connection to feeling, being really taken on a passionate journey. And that's the Scorpio side of it. So in essence, there's a real call to look within at what allows you to feel a state of peace, a state of contentment. That sense of pleasure where your sensuality is heightened is facilitated, for example, through hugs, through tactile connections. You know, Taurus is an earth sign, so it's very tactile. And so massages and sensual comforts, aromas, right? Anything that is scented, essential oils, anything that tastes good, that brings you pleasure. All of these are important at this time because they remind you of the abundance of the universe, right? Taurus governs abundance. Taurus governs the second house in astrology. And it's all about appreciating and giving gratitude for those wonderful pleasures that we have living as humans in 3D reality. So there's a sense of extra appreciation, extra gratitude. Also with that Jupiter T-square, it really enhances that sense of joy and gratitude and rapport with nature as well. Being an earth sign, Taurus that is, it seeks peace by being in nature. So if you can get out, depending on the weather, or even just be sitting at a window and taking in nature in some way, this will give you a solid foundation that Taurus is all about. This will allow you to feel the natural flow of life, meaning the sense of progressing step by step and, being patient, because the natures of the seasons always happen. We just have to go with the flow and not push it, not persist to the point of being aggressive. So Taurus is a more slow moving sign, and it allows you to take in what it is you're spending time with, what it is you're partaking in, right? What it is you're lavishing your attention on. It allows you to assimilate that energy. So whatever values that are changing in your life based on all the shifts that are going on. I mean, we've got shifts like you read about going on now. So I'm sure your values are undergoing either a strengthening or a changing. And so as Taurus comes in now with this eclipse, it's basically shining the light with this full moon, right? It's getting eclipsed, but then it appears again, and it will have shifted you due to the eclipse and shown you, well, what is it I'm accepting into my life? This is a full moon of self-acceptance. What am I allowing in? What is it I want to keep out? Taurus is very firm about that. Taurus will set those boundaries, right? It governs abundance. And in order to have financial flow, we have to make decisions that are responsible decisions. So there is a sense of looking at any attachment, any stubbornness, any possessiveness. Now, we have some amazing aspects during this full moon eclipse. I already mentioned the T-square to Jupiter, and basically we've had a lot of T-squares lately. I don't know if you've noticed, the Aries new moon at the end of October had a T-square to Pluto. Then we had the Scorpio new moon on the 4th of November, which had a T-square to Saturn. And now the Taurus eclipse, which has a T-square to Jupiter. Now T-squares are very activating. It intensifies the energy. And since it's an eclipse, there's even more intensification. Now Jupiter is at 24 degrees in Aquarius. It's spending its final weeks in that sign before moving into Pisces at the end of this year. And the sun and moon are at 27 degrees in Taurus and Scorpio. And so we have this T-square with two very wonderful numbers. 24 and 27 are highly fortunate numbers of abundance and wise leadership and love. There's just a real sense of the flow in your life. And so this Jupiter T-square is going to expand that flow. So just be aware that Jupiter enhances everything you focus on. And so if you focus on something negative, that will also blow up as well. So keep that in mind. Now we also have Mars opposite Uranus. Now this is really big because Mars and Uranus are very quick moving planets, and they symbolize, Mars is driven, it acts, it can be aggressive, but it's definitely about moving forward. It's very sensual, instinctual energy, fast moving. And Uranus is your intuition. It is literally moving towards something to break through what no longer is useful. So it creates breakups, breakthroughs. It's definitely the planet of change and also rebellion. And it is the genius planet. So Uranus is in this very activating opposition to Mars. And that has a hugely liberating impact because Mars, of course, wants to do it its own way. And Uranus is about your inner genius and breakthroughs. So this is very intense energy. And so being creative during this time is a must, because you definitely have this urge to break away from any restriction and authority that you feel is overbearing. So you're breaking through and creating new boundaries because of Taurus, right? So what you do want to guard against with this opposition is communicating with anger or in a rash way, or just reacting too quickly before you really felt things through. So what helps to dissipate this potent energy surge is to plan to have time for fun, to literally go on an adventure, to seek something that brings you pleasure and calms you down because it's taking you to that timeless place. So you want to focus on those creative projects, and you'll definitely have creative breakthroughs. Certainly your personal relationships will be invigorated with Mars involved. And also remember, the Taurus eclipse is ruled by Venus. And Mars and Venus are in two signs now that really complement each other. Mars is in Scorpio, the sign it ruled before Pluto's discovery, so it's very aligned with Scorpio. And Venus is in Capricorn, and those are complementary signs. So there's a real beauty here with intimate relationships. It doesn't just mean romantic, but in general, friendships, close relationships. So back to the Mars opposite Uranus, this will really help you also to not sit on decisions. I know Taurus is more slow moving and takes things into consideration before making a decision, but this will really speed things up. So there can be surprising developments and you'll need to make quick decisions, and you'll be able to do that. So embracing the unusual is very important as well. And basically it's a great time to implement major changes if that's what you want, if that's where the energy is pulling you, right? It's a good time to do that. And then one more transit to tell you about. It's an exact transit between Venus and Uranus. It's a trine. And this is so beautiful because of the fun and adventure that it generates. So there's a sense of expressing yourself exuberantly. Also with the Jupiter T-square, there's just so much happiness here, especially if you move into your creative side. So this is where it's a good time to just focus on something other than your work. So are you spending too much time on work and not enough time being playful? Uranus trine Venus, Venus being the ruler of this eclipse, so very important. They're exact 12 degrees, both of them. It's basically saying, what are you doing to be playful? Are you doing something every day for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, even 10 minutes that you love, that takes you into, a hobby, something that has nothing to do with owing something or being responsible for something that's a chore, but it really takes you to that timeless place, an activity that you enjoy. It could be playing the piano, something, painting, right? Taking a walk, whatever it is, it takes you into that timelessness. So this is a moment that you are not pleasing anyone, you're not meeting an expectation, you're purely doing it for pleasure. And this is what is being called for. Venus, the ruler of Taurus, the ruler of this eclipse, is trine to Uranus. And this is so beautiful, so creative. And a lot of people these days are very busy. They work to get ahead, to, do whatever they need to do. And just having something that has nothing to do with anything, basically, except pure joy for you, is often ignored or put on the back burner. So, but it's so important for your health, your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, your emotional health, and especially if you're very mind-oriented, like you're studying a lot or you're just using your mind a lot, thinking a lot, overthinking things, right? These days, that's easy to do. You need to play more. You need to get out of your mind and back into your heart. So the heart center is really where you connect with Source, and doing something creative for fun, just for the sake of being creative, is the key here. And when you're in that creative play, you're operating from the heart, right? You're not operating from the mind. So that's really true creative play, not thinking about what you're creating, just being it, just enjoying it, and you forget what time it is. And basically it shifts you because you're not criticizing yourself and judging yourself in the process of being creative, right? You're just letting it flow and then going back, if you want to check spelling and grammar and whatever it is. The same goes for painting. You don't stop and say, oh, I didn't like where I put that color blue or that brush stroke. You don't monitor yourself while you're creating. You're just being in the flow. So this is just for the pure joy, Jupiter, the pure joy, Venus, that you're doing things. You're just singing, you're performing, you're playing, you're dancing, whatever it is you like to do. So now here's the thing about this eclipse. It's the first in the Taurus-Scorpio axis. So what happens is we've got two signs that are opposite each other activated approximately every 18, 19 months because the lunar nodes move that pace through the opposite signs. So for the next 18, 19 months or so, the eclipses will be in Taurus and Scorpio for the most part. Certainly all year next year in 2022 and also into 2023. We even have another on this axis in October 2023. So it's a bit longer this time, but this axis is very powerful because it rules the 2nd and 8th houses in astrology. And the 8th house is the most misunderstood house. It governs things that you don't talk about casually. So it governs sexuality, money, and life and death, especially death. So those are also archetypes. So meaning abundance, the flow of abundance in your life doesn't necessarily only encompass money. Sexuality isn't only about, the union of two physically. It is literally how you feel in terms of your energy, creative energy, how are you applying your creative energy. This is the pure divine source of passion that we have. It's the Scorpio house, the 8th house. And of course, death is not, it's a symbol of dying to every moment. So if we're able to do that, then we don't fear death. We don't fear the future. So it's a very deep, deep house, and it's a water house. And in the 2nd house, the Taurus house, as we mentioned, is about what you truly value. And so, yes, it governs the flow of your own self-generated finances, and it also governs how you feel about pleasure, right? What it is you love to do. That's why it governs your talents and how you apply your talents. And then eventually, yes, you get reimbursed for your talents. So these are the two signs that are going to be active with all the eclipses taking place in them for the most part, beginning now. And so you want to then look at what those topics mean to you. Now, we also have a trine to Pluto from the moon and a sextile from the sun to Pluto, and Pluto rules Scorpio, where the sun is for this eclipse. And this really heightens your psychic ability, your intuition. It helps you move into a place where you can exchange energy from a very, very deep, profound way, because you're willing to let go and you're willing to purge. And at the same time, that's empowering you. So it's a really intense, but also very motivational, transformational experience. And it is a trine, meaning it's very harmonious. So you're not being pushed, but you're being invited to partake in this very psychic, intuitive, deep energy. And then there's also a trine from the sun to Neptune and a sextile from the moon to Neptune. And Neptune is a water planet, so it's very connected to Scorpio, where the sun is. And this is very, very beautiful to have these two very harmonious connections to both Neptune and to Pluto. They're slow-moving planets, and they basically help us have faith in everything working out, that the divine is surrounding us with love and kindness and generosity and abundance. And also, it's a beautiful invitation, especially in November, when the seasons really have changed, depending on where you live. We are in the northern hemisphere here, but even in the southern hemisphere, there's a real sense of the seasons changing. And so Pluto invites that change to be profound. Now, Pluto is going to play a huge role as we move into 2022, and I'll be talking more about that shortly in upcoming episodes. But that means that transformation and letting go and everything to do with power that is misused, and also the inner empowerment coming as a balancing to the misuse of external power is a big, big theme. So coming back to that, being in the moment, valuing the small things, having appreciation and gratitude for what is flowing in your life, right? Not focusing on what is not flowing, but on what is flowing. And that in turn it's like you've switched on a light and the current is tuned now to appreciation and gratitude, and it switches on joy. And so you're tuned to that channel now. And so then you get out of despair, you let go of judgment, you let go of criticizing a situation in your life or not accepting a change, because you're tuned to that channel of joy, of appreciation. And it just feeds on itself because you're listening to that music. If you appreciate what it is you have, and that you have everything you need to live a life of joy, you will build and build on that frequency. You will tune into that frequency, and you will be in a more expanded state as a result. And you'll feel more and more gratitude, and more opportunities will come to you. And this is really the message of this Taurus eclipse. So I hope you have a beautiful Taurus eclipse. And don't forget your own divine code, which you can discover at starcodeclass.com, a free masterclass all about you, your birthday, your destiny, your purpose, your birth name, and the degree numbers in your astrology chart. It includes a free handout, and it is so beautiful because you learn about not only yourself, but those people in your life so you can accept them. And being in a state of acceptance is the key. Gratitude and acceptance. So have a gorgeous eclipse. Lots of love to you. And I will see you in next week's Star Codes forecast.